Welcome to the first ever Helping Kids Be Kids video podcast. I'm Christina McIndarfer, and with me today is Linda Crouch. Hey Linda, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about this. I think, especially for this topic, having the visuals is going to make a huge difference. So, it's going to be really fun. So, first of all, we're celebrating World Sight Day.
Yes.
2020.
Yes, a good year for that.
It is 2020 vision. Yes. So what is World Sight Day? What's the purpose of it?
It's really just important to help increase worldwide attention to vision impairment and blindness, and how prevalent it is and what can we do to help support.
That's great. Yeah, because there's so many facets to it. I mean, look around, so many people wear glasses. Like, there's such a spectrum of where we need support with vision.
There are, and there's just millions of people, different types of vision impairments, and it's just important for people to realize how prevalent it is, and that awareness.
Yes. Well, I'm particularly excited that you're the one who's going to be guiding us through this, because you have so many credentials that qualify you, and you've been at this for a long time. So
I have.
Tell us some of your background about vision and what you've seen.
Sure. Well, I'm a nationally certified low vision therapist, and I've worked actually with individuals who are blind and visually impaired for up to almost 30 years now. So I'm also one of 3 individuals that in the state of Oklahoma that have their Perkins-Roman endorsed for cortical vision impairment. So it's wonderful to get such a broad experience in working with little ones on up to adults, and just the challenges that they face every day with a vision impairment.
Yeah, so having been in this for so long,
yes,
give us a feel for, if we're starting with these things with our itty bitties, what can that end result be? Where does it head if we're really proactive?
Right. Well, and I think it's really looking at what are the skills that they need if they're going to end up using Braille, and deciding developmentally how to support them in these skills that they're going to be able to do, whether it's fine motor, it's strengthening, it's using both hands together. There's just a huge base of learning and developmental skills that need to occur for them to be successful in Braille.
Okay, yeah. So have you seen kids who learn Braille, and then what doors does that open up for them?
Huge doors. So children, that research really shows that if we promote Braille as much as possible, there's really has been less learning of Braille and more reliance on auditory. But research shows that children that have that experience, that have that open access to Braille throughout their day, they are much more able to succeed with academic success and employment.
That's a key word.
Very important.
Yes, because it feels like there would be a lot of barriers for employment. There are
a lot of barriers. That's something I'm really passionate about, to make sure that those skills are put into place so that individuals can be whoever they want to. They are not defined by their blindness or their vision impairment, that whatever their passions are, that they're able to have that quality of life and to be able to shine, to be able to show what God's mission is for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that you do some work still with young adults who...
I do.
Yeah. What are some of the kinds of things that they're doing?
Well, one of the young men that I work with, he actually is an alumni of Little Lighthouse.
Oh.
And to watch him learn Braille here and use that successfully throughout school, ended up going to college, got a degree, and is now employed and working, and is also working as a para associate or a teacher associate for one of our students who learned Braille. So it's just been, that to me was just such a sweet story of success, to really show that beginning to the end, a full circle, for him to be able to do that, to be a part of that story.
That's amazing. Hopefully we can have him on our show sometime.
That'd be wonderful.
I mean, it's so inspiring.
Yes.
I've met the student that you're talking about.
Yes.
and he's a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He's so poised and confident.
He is, and I think he is that way because his parents were really vested into helping him learn the skills that he needed to be able to do, not just Braille, but social skills and being able to, a lot of things that individuals who are blind don't pick up on some of the social cues and that conversation, and they were just advocates for him and really helped him learn to advocate for himself as well. In fact, I have to tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
But he did call me and say, I'm headed to my interview. I said, you are? And he said, yes, I didn't tell them I'm blind. Do you think that matters? And I said, I don't think it does. He said, I think they're going to figure it out when I show up with my guide dog. I said, I think so.
What would be some problems that a family would encounter if they're not proactive, like this young man's family was?
Well, I think the biggest problem that can happen for children who are blind or visually impaired is they wait for someone to interact with them because they're not going to pick up on visual cues, incidental learning. They're not going to see that the teacher is over there picking up, getting snacks ready, or it's time to eat. They're not going to see all those visual cues, and so they wait for that information to be brought to them. And it's really important that we understand that their hands are their eyes. And we want to provide, just as we as sighted individuals, 80% of the information we get throughout our day is vision. We need to give them 80% of information through their hands, tactily. So there's just a difference in teaching them, but we need to make sure that those opportunities are provided because they will just wait for things to come to them and become more passive. That creates those developmental delays become even larger for them.
Yeah. What would be some indicators if you're watching your young child interact with toys? What would be some ways that you might pick up concern that they need more intervention?
That's a good question. So I think as they're playing with toys, maybe you're seeing that they're staying with the same toy over and over again. Maybe it's just a simple cause and effect toy, and they're just pushing the button, listening to the music, pushing the button, listening to the music, and that's an over and over repetition. You're not seeing them maybe with objects or toys exploring how to use those. Maybe all they do is bang with the toy, and they're not learning how that toy also can roll, it can bounce. There's other attributes to it that someone would need to tactily take them through in learning that about that object.
Okay.
So play would be an area where you're going to see a big delay. You also might see a big delay in eating and not being able to see their food, being able to know where food is out in front of them. It's just presented on a spoon, so they're not exploring the tray as much. And then walking, gross motor skills can be quite delayed as well.
Okay. Walking.
All the areas of
Eating,
development.
play.
It truly, it does. It can affect all of those.
That's really comprehensive.
It
Okay,
is,
so we're going to touch on how to overcome that with these great
Yes.
toys that you brought.
Yes,
But let's lead up to that. So all of these visuals you've brought, these toys and everything, have to do with teaching pre-Braille skills.
Yes.
So let's give a little bit of background about Braille,
Sure.
pre-Braille.
Sure.
What is Braille?
What is Braille? Sure. Well, Braille is it's a tactile code for individuals who are blind or visually impaired to be able to access print, but also for writing. So it's a way for them to communicate to others through writing and learn all the academic that they need for that. So Braille is really set up in a cell format, and I printed this off to kind of help give an example.
Oh, I like that.
But the Braille cell is made up of 6 dots. So it's really, this is position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, 5, and 6. And so that's important because it helps allow for that code system for what letter are we referencing. So the tactile code of A, you would put the object in, or it would be actually, it'd be dot 1, and B would be dot 1 and 2, and so forth for each letter to represent that. So let me show you an example. This is a book that has Braille already on it. So as you feel that, what that'll represent is this is a 6 cell right here. So that's representing a letter.
Okay.
So that each of those is representing a letter to help the reader understand that this is a book about belly button. And Braille is also used functionally just in our everyday life. Everybody's probably seen it on the elevator buttons. You get on and there's Braille there too. So there's functional Braille just throughout your environment, throughout your world, that helps an individual who's blind be able to access where are they going, what floor am I going to on the elevator, which is the men's restroom, which is the women's restroom, environmental Braille, but then also that more formal in accessing books and writing with the Braille writer.
Okay, so when you say environmental, is it abbreviated, or do you just mean environmental just because it's available on the signs?
It's available on the signs.
Okay.
Like you might see Braille menus at the restaurant, things like that. So, you know, it's not just about reading a book. It's being able to access everything that's within their world.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's the environmental, like we would visually pick up all the signs, so
Yes,
many signs.
correct,
So
right.
then that's kind of the translation of it that's
Yes.
available. And then there are ways where you can use a typewriter.
Yes,
to
you can
write
use the
Braille.
Braille writer to actually write in letters. There's, you know, it's really, this is kind of an old school type because really everything's gone to more like refreshable Braille devices or things that more modern technology.
So we've gotten way past
We have way
pre-Braille,
back,
but that's kind of
but
nice
it's
to know the
good.
big picture of like where this heads. Like,
Sure.
I was reflecting on this last night and thinking about how we just love reading to children
Yes.
to introduce them to concepts well before they're reading. So this is kind of like their literacy
It is.
or pre-literacy.
It is a
skills.
pre-literacy skill, definitely.
So we talked about what Braille is. How do you determine which children would really benefit from a
Right.
comprehensive exposure to Braille?
Right. Well, like you were just saying there, the earlier the better, because you may not know, you know, and as the child leads us, right? So we really understand what they're able to pick up on. We do functional vision assessments. Those are things that a teacher of the visually impaired can do, and be able to decide. It's also learning media assessment. So it's learning, does this child need Braille or do they need print or do they need both? You know, so I think the importance is starting as early as possible with concepts, because these are great concepts anyway. So they're going to support just overall development, but then it's also just embedded that you've given them already experience for Braille.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so how early do you get started?
Well, I say the sooner the better. So, you know, as far as the pre-Braille stuff, definitely when they're younger. I think even, you know, age 2, 3, it depends on the child. You might even begin letting them what we call scribbling. So you think of, you know, they're not using a crayon like a child would, but maybe we put Braille paper in the Braille writer and we let them just punch on the keys, right? We're not doing formal instruction. We're just letting them scribble. We're letting them have that same developmental opportunity that other children their age are having.
That really makes sense. I think if we can parallel, what would we do if they were sighted, and then translate to what tools are available to help them with Braille,
right?
And not think of it like, okay, now we're going to sit down and have a lesson.
That's
as much
right.
as like play.
Right. To put it into their routine, being aware, like you said, of developmentally other skills that children their age are doing, and that'll help shorten that developmental gap that can be widening if we're not providing these opportunities.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the fun.
Yeah,
if you could, while you're explaining this, be pointing out to us like how this is helping them with all of their developmental areas, with their walking, using their fingers, all of that. That would be fun, I think.
Great. Well, we'll start with, here's one for texture. So with this, everything is provided, as I talked about, a cell format. So there's 6. So everything that you present to the kiddo just throughout their day, you could just think of, how could I present that more in that 6-cell format? Because they're learning, even though they don't know they're learning yet, is top, middle, bottom, left, right. they may not have an awareness of those words or those concepts, but they're motor planning wise, learning how to access those areas. Plus, it's giving them just the tactile support of where something might go. A lot of times we don't think of just a table. If we set something down, they have no physical reference to where that item is on the table. So providing them more of a framework and that structure is so important, because again, we have to remember we're thinking with our hands as our eyes.
Yes.
Versus our eyes finding things.
Yes.
So this is a textured matching. You could make one of these very easy. You wouldn't have to even use blocks. You could just do texture swatches and just be able to match the different textures. So you're doing tactile discrimination. So important for fingertips, for reading Braille and understanding a light touch versus a deep touch. And that tactile discrimination will be crucial for them in being able to do Braille, because it's such a fine information that they're seeking through their fingertips. And we don't realize that, since we don't use Braille ourselves, how important that truly is. So texture, lots of texture, different types of texture is crucial. So that's
a lot with just that one piece.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
This part right here is for eating. So this is how you could just set up snacks in that same format. Maybe their cup is always in the same spot, their spoon's in the same spot, different snacks. So you can use that during snack time or meal time. Painting. So you could actually expand. You can tell this is a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. But so spatially, they're learning it's a smaller area versus a larger area. Yes. But that's a great way to just incorporate that into play. Uh-huh. This would be for
I really like this one.
For learning about textures. Balls are not just hard. You know, they can have different textures. They can make different sounds. They can light up. You know, might have a child that light perception. That's going to be important for them. And then I just attached them, because we have kiddos that maybe like to throw, and if they do, it's okay. We give them that opportunity, but it stays attached. Then they have to find that toy and be able to bring it back. So this motor-wise could be a great activity to help promote wanting to find that ball, so that they can put it back.
And you still got all the textures
Yes.
and different sizes.
Right, and so they're understanding that ball has different characteristics.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is for maybe an idea for just strengthening, and plus it makes a really cool sound when you take that off. And auditory is it's so critical for children who are visually impaired, because they're going to use auditory just like their hands to just help supplement what they can't see. So providing different types of sounds are really a fun
And that
way
would
to play.
strengthen the hands too, wouldn't it?
To strengthen the hands. Yeah. Yes, bilateral, being able to hold on to the pan and pull
do
at the
something
same time.
different with each hand.
Braille, you're going to be using both hands, so it's truly important that you're using have that bilateral task. There is a way to teach some children, if they can't, to do it one-handed, but most Braille individuals are using with two hands for Braille. And then Play-Doh is a great tool for everything because you're working on opening containers, pinch. You can actually be rolling the Play-Doh, which helps with wrist stability, which is what you need for a Braille writer, and the strength that you need with it. You could also just even do concepts of putting one piece of Play-Doh here, two pieces of Play-Doh here, three, so that you're building in more concepts, number concepts.
Yes. And all of this is play.
All of it's
I love
play.
that. It's not like,
And
now
so
we're
they
going to be
don't
really serious and work on your wrist stability.
Well, and I think it's a wonderful way for parents to not feel overwhelmed about Braille, because if they're going to be wanting to be of support to their child, they're going to be learning Braille along with their child to help support them. And so this is it's a great way for them to do it and share in that activity together.
This has been wonderful. Did you want to show us anything else?
The last was just the Lego
yes.
blocks. So that's just putting that in a
everybody has
format.
Legos.
Yeah, and so you could even just kind of attach those two so that you have your 6 cells, and then they just put the Lego on top, to represent whatever letter.
Oh, like an
doing.
individual.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's it's just that texture and that experience through play, that format, that Braille format, the cell.
this has been really fun. So many ideas all in one place. One of the ideas that you said that really stuck out to me, I hadn't thought about, is letting them experience that the one word ball has so many diverse applications.
Yes.
So.
Yes, and that's an important part. You think of you don't want children to have empty concepts. So if you give them a banana, they need to know that the banana has a skin on it, that it comes in a whole piece. It doesn't come sliced up when mom puts it on my tray. That they understand all the attributes of that object.
Yeah. So are you teaching that by encouraging them to touch the part that corresponds with the vocabulary you're using? So
yes, and having that
skin.
direct experience.
We're opening
within a routine.
We're peeling the banana.
Yes.
Okay.
Smell the banana. What's the texture?
Oh. It's just, it sounds so relational to me. Like just come in and let's experience life together.
It is, and it's all about those direct experiences because, like I said earlier, they don't get the incidental learning through vision. So it really becomes about a direct experience, routines of the day, and that's why it's so important that the families have ideas and ways that they can help promote this for them.
Yeah. Well, typically we'll end a podcast by talking about how do we help kids be kids, but I'd love for us to think of that in terms of if parents catch the vision for this and help their itty bitties with these pre-Braille activities, or even maybe hop on later in life and do these in a older appropriate way.
Sure.
But my question is, how will these activities and the ability to read Braille help children to survive and thrive?
Yes. Well, like we said earlier, it's just so important for them to have that opportunity to become successful, right? I think, a lot of times when parents maybe get that first diagnosis is, what does that mean for my child? What are they going to be able to do? And it's hard for them to see that vision. So it's just so important for us to provide that success and that they can achieve academically what they want. They can work, they can do whatever they want to do in life. They can live independently. They can volunteer. There's just so much that they can do, and they can have a rich, meaningful life. And it's Christ-centered, and that they can serve others. That's always my ultimate goal for children, if whatever their disability might be or those challenges that they have, it's not always about what more that they learn. That's so important, but gosh, if we can tap into what their gifts are so that they can serve others just as we serve, that's truly Christ.
Yes. Yeah. That is what brings us joy, isn't it? It's not that we get to do stuff, but that we get to do it for Him and for others. So,
it is.
Well, thanks for joining us for our first ever Helping Kids Be Kids video. I cannot wait to do more, and I look forward to having you as a guest in the future. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Happy World Sight Day 2020.